So let me tell you a story from about 20 years ago. This is the first time I flew on an airplane. I was taking a trip with my aunts, and I turned to one of them as we're taking off. We're in the air by now, and I say, you know what would really suck? What would really suck is if the floor of the plane just fell out right now. And she said, you know what, Josh? Yeah, that would really suck. You're right. That would really suck. And that's kind of the feeling I had when I got to work today. As you can see, there's a little bit of rain still left on my sunroof up here. It was raining pretty hard when I got to work this morning, and my first call was going to be an outside wall hydrant that I needed to repair or replace, right? So I was kind of dreading that when I got there. Luckily, once I got to the customer's house, it wasn't really raining that hard. But in the back of my mind, I was thinking, man, that would really suck if I had to work out in the pouring rain, and do plumbing in the rain. I hate doing that, but there's times when you have to do it, and it's got to get done. So I attempted to do a repair on that old prior faucet outside, and it did not work. So we're actually going to return next week so we can get that replaced for them. We're just gonna have to cut an access on the inside and then cut this old one out, put a new one in. We'll probably put a Woodford in, get that taken care of for them. But I did go ahead and replace a pressure reducing valve. They were having low water pressure issues. They had replaced the PRV, I think 4 or 5 years ago, and I went ahead and replaced it again today with a newer, better version. And I went to test to see if we didn't have the low water pressure issue anymore, and we actually still had it. So I would turn one faucet on and we have full water pressure, 65, 70, wherever I set it at, and then I'd flush the toilet, and then it would almost go down to a trickle or almost nothing. And this happened in multiple different locations around the house, so I know it has to be something on the main line. Now, I was a little confused by this because I would say 95% of the time, if there's a pressure issue, whether high or low, it's usually your pressure reducing valve that's giving you troubles and it needs to be replaced. So obviously that's what I went with, and it didn't fix it today, so I was a little bamboozled. But I went out to the water meter, noticed that the water meter is probably from the 1960s when the house was built. And I recommended getting that checked out by the city to see if there's maybe some sort of restriction in the meter, possibly. But the only other thing that I could really think of would be if there's some sort of kink in the water line underground. Now, I don't think this would be very common, but it's possible. And my manager even suggested, we may need to go back out there, remove the pressure reducing valve, and then try again and see if we still have flow restriction. If we do, then we might have an issue, coming through that underground water line. But we do want to make sure that everything on the city side and the water meter is working properly, because if it's not, that could be, a cause for issue as well. So, and I bring up the suck story in the sense that, we replaced the pressure reducing valve today and it didn't fix the problem. And so there's a deeper issue that we need to find and locate. And I've had a couple of these calls recently that have just kind of, I don't want to say stumped me, but have really challenged me and sometimes even tested my patience a little bit, because I've been doing plumbing for a little bit over 10 years now, and thankfully not a whole lot of residential plumbing really stumps me anymore, but I've run into a couple that are just, it's weird, and as a person who fixes things for a living, there's nothing more frustrating than going into an issue and not being able to fix it, right? So after I installed that new pressure reducing valve and it still wasn't working, in the back of my mind, I just remember that story. Man, that would really suck. Yeah, well, this really sucked because, the customer kind of loses a little bit of confidence in you, since, I was so sure that this would take care of the issue, and 90 to 95% of the time it does. But unfortunately, we're in that 5% to 10% that doesn't fix the issue. So then what? One thing that works really well for me is the fact that you need to step outside, go take a look at something else for a second, go sit down for 5 minutes, go get a drink of water, go get a snack. You have to clear that mind sometimes, because if you just stay in there and try and, rummage through your head what it possibly could be, it's only going to make the problem worse. And you sometimes have to clear your mind. So I try not to think of, what would really suck if this doesn't work. It's more like, what would really suck if I just gave up. and didn't follow through to find a solution for my customer. And so I try and flip it back on that. You know, it would really suck if I were the customer that had somebody come out and, you know, they tried to fix an issue, but it didn't go the way they planned, and then they just left me, right? We're not gonna let that happen. We're gonna definitely get this taken care of. It's just a matter of, let's find another solution, because we've taken care of step 1. You know, now it's time to go to step 2, step 3, and so on. What do you guys think? Is there something that I'm missing here? Is there something else I should be looking at? Because it's happening all the way around the house. So it's got to be somewhere either in the meter, in the line outside, or in the PRV, right? Let me know what you guys think.